Ahoy, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the BBC Spews Live on Tuesday, the 25th of July. Huzzah. I had to take a day off yesterday because I was busy, pissing up in somewhere pleasant. No excuses for that. Oh, what do you want me to do? I'm not made of stone. Can't just sit in here all day reading, getting angry, punching holes in my desk with my rage boner 24/7. Got to relax a little bit. I went up to a nice little town up the street called Morocco Bay, with a big rock in the middle of it, like a bit like Gibraltar. It was like Gibraltar minus the thieving monkeys. To those of you that were inclined in the comments, that isn't an analogy or a synonym. They're literal thieving monkeys all over the rock of Gibraltar. The little bastards pinch off the tourists. So that was good. Some interesting stories to cover that I've obviously arrived back to. First and foremost, is this absolute corker. It's not on the BBC because they don't want to talk about it. So we'll have to go to CNN for it. But I will show you this link before I crack on. There is an apology on the BBC website for Farage, which I'll also cover because they fucking owe him one. But yeah, this one. I mean, again, those of you that pay attention know that there's nothing liberal about these identity-obsessed commie ratbags at the BBC. But, I mean, the thing is, in my life, all my closest friends and family have often told me that I lack tact and nuance. I'm not the type of bloke who likes to beat around the bush too much. I just feel like it's a little bit dishonest. So, I like to put all my cards on the table, and I'm frequently told that I lack tact. I'm not Machiavellian enough. But the BBC make me look like the pinnacle of human diplomacy, because some of the shit they come out with you just mind boggles. Your mind boggles at what goes through the heads of the ludicrous, insane ideologues that work for them. And this one, BBC apologises for reporters' inappropriate question. It is honestly shocking that, I suppose what it is it's because this movement is basically like a religious cult. And you know it is. I've made the analogy numerous times. Lots of much more intellectual people than me have talked about in a great length how there's so many similarities between the what is now the woke movement and an organization like the Catholic Church, for example, right down to the fact that they've got like high priests, they've got people who they revere, and they won't have you slagging them off. People like Greta, they've got high priests, they've got edicts, they've got litanies that they all chant, and then everybody responds. You see them doing it all the time, where they're out on the street in a big gang, and they're chanting things like a priest would in the pew, in the pulpit, and there's people responding with the litany like religious people do. I've seen it loads of times where you've all seen it, where you've got some commie stood there with a microphone, and it's a really corny chant as well. It just sounds ludicrous, and they're like, "No justice, no peace," and then all the people in the chant are like, "Justice for George Floyd," and then they all repeat it, and it's exactly like a religious service. You've also got the complete denial of reality and logic, which was exactly the same from some, speaking in tongues, fire and brimstone Baptist snake charmer, right? Where they won't have it. You say to them, "Listen, we know the age of the earth roughly. It's like 4.7 billion years old or something," and they go, "Nah, 6,000. 6,000, or why do you think that? Well, we read the Bible and it says so. So irrelevant of anything else you tell us, that's what we think." And that is exactly how the woke are. Like, they do not care about logic or facts. You tell them something and they go, "Nah." Also, just like the people in a religious cult, they can believe two things that contradict each other simultaneously at the same time. Classic cognitive dissonance, like really, really insane. I can give dozens of examples of that. When they're talking about a man is a woman and a woman is a man, when it suits them, there's no such thing. But then when it doesn't suit them, it definitely is. It's got to the point where they'll basically, Douglas Murray talks humorously about this on the Spectator podcast, but he was saying, you know, they've basically said there's no such thing as a lesbian because you can just decide on a whim whether you're a woman, and then what you're attracted to, that's all in your head as well. It's all in your head. So I can identify as a man, and I can bum a bloke. And I can identify as a woman, and I can bum a bloke who identifies as a woman. And it could be me and Jeff Capes, and in their mind, it would just say, "Oh, two lesbians over there." You know what I mean? If I'm getting fingered off fucking, who's even more manly than Jeff Capes? Giant haystacks. I don't know. I'll think Arnie. If Arnie's giving me a nosh, we can just say we're a pair of lesbians, minding our own business, and they go, "Yeah, that's normal." Totally normal. That doesn't make me sit there going, eh? Like almost everything they say is completely fucking insane. But they don't see any problems with it because they're in a religious cult. It's a cult. It's a fucking cult. Anyway, just ranting about that. And the thing I was getting at is, even I wouldn't be as inappropriate as this, because think about it. On the one hand, they're going about how tolerant and progressive and liberal they are. But this is the type of shit you would expect from a Baptist preacher. Like, you know, someone who genuinely hates the LGBT lot. They'd be the type of person who'd say, "Are you a fucking lesbian?" Like, just come right out with it. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't do that. If I, wear a skirt, that's another good one, isn't it? Essentially, they say, prove this, I'm a feminist, and nothing says feminist more than punching a lesbian in the face. Because that's what Julie Bindel was saying. Like, all the old school lesbians from the 80s and the 90s, they're the ones getting attacked by these woke people. So you'll get a man saying he's a feminist, and he proves he's a feminist by punching an actual biological woman in the face. And they go, yeah, progressive. Complete lunatics. Anyway, this story, if you haven't heard it, just look at this. It says the BBC's apologised for an inappropriate question one of its reporters asked the captain of the Morocco women's national team. At a media conference ahead of Morocco's Women's World Cup opener against Germany, a reporter from the BBC asked Giselle Chebak, "In Morocco, it's illegal to have a gay relationship. Do you have any gay players in your squad? What's life like for them?" Just come straight out with it. So, like, even in that one, in the question, why it's like, there, kind of, because she's gone, in Morocco, it's highly illegal to be gay. Have you got any fucking lesbians? Show us all your lesbians. Do it now. Like, of course, they're not going to tell you fucking maniac. It's a complete, the insanity. This is what I'm saying. They never question themselves. Like, people that aren't in a cult always question themselves. Am I doing the right thing? Is this logical? Is this rational? At no point did this lunatic think, is it inappropriate to say to someone in a crowded room, "It's illegal to be gay in Morocco. Have you got any fucking lesbians? Bring the lesbians out. Dip me in chocolate and throw me to the lesbians." That is crazy. Totally inappropriate. I wouldn't do it. If I was just in a pub and two birds start talking to me, I don't go, "Are you fucking lesbians?" It's just not something you do. Two blokes start chatting you and you get the feeling they're a little bit campy. You don't just go, "Have you ever sucked his cock?" It's wholly inappropriate. And these lunatics just think, yeah, she's like Ghislaine Chebak. Half a second, they're not even talking about football. So, yeah, do you want to talk about football? No. I want to know if you like slapping your teammates fucking wet lettuce. Tell me. Are your bacon drapes a little bit fucking callous from all the action? What? Have you got a clitoris like Rocky's speedball? Because you and the goalkeeper keep slapping your split kippers together. Is that what's going on? Can we just talk about football, please? Call me a bluff old traditionalist. I would expect questions about football. I'd expect things like, do you practice zonal marking? Or have you been practicing penalty kicks in anticipation for the game? Definitely not asking her about the fucking, whether she's got a mouse's ear or a ripped welly between her legs. It's just fucking crazy. So these are the liberals. Yeah, dead liberal. Very, very interesting. You know what the worst part about it, though, is joking aside, was the reporter. Of course, she must have been. She must have been wanting to find out who she can get round, who she can violate with a fucking plant pot after the game. It's embarrassing to be British. It really is. Like, I've got the worst of both worlds because I'm American as well now. So I've got Joe fucking Biden to deal with and Kamala Harris, like probably two of the thickest people in the country. There's like 330 million people out here. And you must conclude that there's two of the thickest right there. Like absolute planks, dumb and fucking dumber. Like they're both genuinely thick, aren't they? Biden was thick when he was 40. Like he really was. You go back, the amount of gaffes and ignorant, stupid things he used to say back in the day. He was thick when he was 40. That's what I keep telling everyone out here. I was like, Americans most of them don't know as much about their own politics as I do because, you know, I've been a political junkie for 25 years and I love reading and learning. And it's like, if you look into Biden's background, the amount of stupid things he said over the years, he was genuinely thick when he was 40. And at least when he was 40, he could talk better. And you see him now and you just think, definitely one of the thickest people. Like, I wouldn't put him in the top 50% of the fucking people in the country. So he's thick. And Kamala Harris is an absolute plank. Like an absolute plank. Like she's got no common sense at all. She's definitely got less common sense than me. And I'm assuming, I've never done a proper IQ test. I'm assuming I'm just average. I never felt cleverer than anybody else when I was in school. I'm assuming I'm just average. So Kamala and Joe are thicker than me. So therefore it's logical to say they are two of the thickest people in the country. And they're not even average. So it's embarrassing being American. It's embarrassing. And if you're an American in the chat and you say you aren't embarrassed, I don't know. You're living in a fantasy land. You all know I'm not having a pop in America. Sadwings gets it when he's in. I'm not having a pop in Americans. I fucking like America. But I've never believed in ducking a hard truth, ever. I don't care what. I'm the type of person who, if I have an ugly kid, I'll say to me missus, he's an ugly little cunt, isn't he? That's just the way I am. I do not believe. I'm such a logic before all type of person that I don't believe. ENTP, it's that personality type where you just do not allow emotion to cloud your judgment. And I was raised that way. My dad was more of a twat to me when I was a kid than he was to any random teenager because he'd always say, you don't want to be accused of nepotism or cronyism with your family. It's because it's cringe and it's dishonorable. So he was more of a prick to me than like you would be to a random kid in the street because you don't allow your emotions to trump your judgment. That's the way I am. Like I said, if we have a child and it's Ginger, I'll be like, well, we fucking dropped the ball there. Look at the clip of him. Look at the clip of it. Can we just take it upstairs for a bath and say, oh, I only turned me back for a minute. Fucking hell. It's a post-birth abortion because it's ugly and ginger. But joking aside, I don't think you should allow your emotions to cloud your judgment. So therefore, don't take it personally if you're an American. And I'm saying we've got two of the thickest people in the country running the country. We have. It's objectively factual. Kamala Harris is stupid. She doesn't know anything. She doesn't know the difference between North and South Korea. Like, I'm not a politician. I'm not a political scientist. I'm just a bloke. I'm not a news reader. And you're damn straight, I know very fucking obviously the difference between North and South Korea. I know the difference between Pyongyang and Seoul. There you go. I know two capitals, and that's just random. I know the difference between Pyongyang and Seoul. I know the difference between the Koreans that were sided with Royal Marines fought over there in the Korean War in the 50s. I know very large amounts about North and South Korea. Much, much more than Kamala Harris does because she's an absolute fucking log with a wig on, and she doesn't have a clue. She thought North Korea were allies of the United States. Like Kim Jong's the fucking mate. It's preposterous. So don't take it personally. I'm an American. I'll hold my hands up. It's embarrassing being an American and having Kamala Harris and Joe Biden at the top. They give speeches and I'm sat there going, fucking, I just wanted to eat my own head. It's so embarrassing, right? And I've been actively against the BBC since I started doing this what, 3.5 years ago now? I don't know how long I've been at it. I hate the BBC. And the reason I really, really, really hate the BBC is because it's personal. It's personal. Because just like I'm ashamed and embarrassed when Kamala Harris says something and I'm worrying, thinking, oh no, a German or a Japanese or a Spaniard or an Italian sees that, and then they see my US passport when I'm traveling, and I'm going, oh no, fucking, like they think we're a nation of morons. Well, that is what the BBC does to me now. Like, this story should make you cringe. Like, you read it and you think, just because, think about it, it was a crowded presser with hundreds of people there, and this fucking plank. It's called the British Broadcasting Corporation. British. So, I mean, I'll tell you exactly what it's like. Sausage Doggy gets it. Probably a military man, right? It's like when you travel and when you're a bootneck. When you go ashore, you cringe if someone does something shocking, because you get tarred with the same brush, right? And if we went ashore in Cadiz in Spain, and if 20 Royal Marines go to a bar and are needlessly boorish and kick fuck out of a bouncer for no reason, it makes you cringe, because you know the next time you go out in Cadiz, everybody's going to point and say they're all fucking hooligans, they're all thugs. It's the same principle. And when the British Broadcasting Corporation goes to pressers with all these people and fucking behaves like that, it makes me cringe, and it's deeply shameful and embarrassing. Yeah, it's looking here, I go, dodged a bullet there. So they'll read that story and go, fucking Brits, and I'll go, oh, the Brits are thick as fuck, I tell you, thick as fuck. There's no telling them. There's no telling them, because it's cringe. It's embarrassing. So that is disgraceful. Just whipping it out in the middle of nowhere. It'd be less embarrassing if she just fucking dropped her drawers and started slapping a fucking clam in front of everyone. Like, it's humiliating. I'm more embarrassed by the behaviour of the BBC than I would be if my granny caught me wanking. It is just humiliating. I'm going to start lying, telling people I'm Irish. Fuck it. Although they vote for Sinn Féin, so they're as thick, aren't they? I can't even fall back on that. When if I could fake it, I'll tell people I'm from Jamaica. Yeah, man. My missus said, I never read it myself, but she said in Frank McCourt's book, he said a lot of people used to think a Jamaican accent sounded like a Geordie. I think that's right. There's a Geordie bloke, and he was from Newcastle, and people used to think he was from Jamaica. Or I think a Jamaican told a Geordie that he thought he was from Jamaica. Maybe I can get away with telling people I'm a Jamaican. So it's just shocking. Like, absolutely shocking. Like, it's cringe, it's embarrassing. She said, no, it's not political. It's about people. It's got nothing to do with politics. The question was inappropriate. We had no intention to cause any harm or distress. Fucking embarrassing. And then they try to make it sound good. Look, Shireen Ahmed, a reporter for CBC Sports, said the report was completely out of line. Harm reduction matters, and posing the question to a captain or coach is unnecessary. It's just shocking. It's unethical and dangerous. So I love that. The Moroccan Football Federation did not immediately respond to CNN's request for comment. Yeah, well, I'll respond for them. I think I can accurately and confidently tell you what I think the Moroccan authorities think of it, because she mentioned it in her first half of her own question. She said, the thick twat. She said, it's highly illegal to be gay in Morocco. Where's all the lesers? So we know what they're going to think of it. Basically, if any of them have answered the question, she'd have got one in the back of the head. So, nice one. What a fucking plank. That is a brilliant story. The BBC, I told you, I'm sick of going on about it. The BBC wants bulldozing. It wants fucking bulldozing. I wouldn't even wait until Match of the Day had finished. I wait till Gary Lineker was given some inane monologue that nobody wants to hear, because nobody with any sense likes. I mean, am I just talking bollocks here? Who actually likes Match of the Day? I remember when I was really into football when I was a teenager, and I didn't like Match of the Day. I used to put Match of the Day on so I could watch the highlights. And when the highlights weren't on, I would fucking do something else. Like, I'd be having a drink and me and my cousin Lee would be playing Monopoly or something. And then we'd stop and watch the fucking highlights. And then when it got back to Gary and all these wankers talking bollocks, we used to just go back to the game. And then you'd wait until the highlights are the only reason you watch it. Like, literally just put the highlights on and don't even talk in between the games. Highlights with the commentary. Nobody cares for Match of the Day. It's a shit program. But as far as I'm concerned, wait until it's at the apex of the show and then fucking bulldoze the building. Controlled explosion. Just get rid of it. Because of this shit, it's embarrassing. The BBC is so embarrassing. Not only do I want them to bulldoze the building, I want us to go all 1984 and deny that the BBC ever existed. Like, but first blow it up, bulldoze it, clear the rubble away, get rid of all of the concrete, and then turn it into a field and just deny it was ever there. Turn it into a football pitch. Build a fucking stadium on top of it, give it to Fulham, right? It's in middle of London. And then just say, oh, no, what are you talking about? Wasn't the BBC? Nah. Wasn't this where Broadcasting House used to be? Who? What's Broadcasting House? Never heard of that, mate. Never heard of it. BBC. Are you talking about that subgenre of pornography, BBC? Yeah, that's the only BBC I've ever heard of. British Broadcast. Nah, that's not a thing, that, mate. Someone's been pulling your leg. Yeah, that's a good one. Build a Jimmy Savile Stadium on top of it. Yeah, but we should just, it's so embarrassing. Blow it up, get rid of it, deny it ever existed. That's how bad it is. And using Spanish chickens analogy, I've cracked that joke many times with regards to the function room at Limston Commando, because a lot of any bootnecks in the chat will know the function room, wherever they had any big events at Limston Commando, where you do all your commando training, was called the Savile Room for years, because Jimmy Savile did a lot for bootneck charities. Probably because he knew he was surrounded by fellow sex pests whenever he went visiting mortars. You know, Jimmy fit in because he went round mortar troops grot one night and they all had like gimp suits on and they were drinking whiskey with like while lowering themselves onto fucking vases and shampoo bottles. It's just what mortars get up to. Mortars and Recce Troop. And they're both in command company. So basically, Jimmy Savile went around command company lines, seeing the type of mad, sick shit that mortars and Recce Troop get up to, when he realised he was with his kindred spirits. So I think that's why Jimmy Savile did so much for Royal Marines charities. But ultimately, he, the function room at Limston Commando was called the Savile Room. And many times I cracked a joke and said, oh, it's all right, they've renamed the Savile Room now. It's now the Gary Glitter Lounge. Because that is something that, I mean, again, something to cringe about, really, is that the fucking Savile Room. And he was in the guard room when I was a recruit and he made me do press-ups. True story. In 776 Troop, loads of lads will remember it. We were going ashore one Saturday night and everyone's going into the guard room to get the pass to go out, and fucking Jimmy was in there with a big bomber puffer jacket on and a pair of shades. And you go in and he's like, now then. How many press-ups can you do, son? And I was like, fucking loads, Jimmy. And he went, come on then, start banging them out. And then he made me do 30 press-ups. And then I went out. And all the corporals in the guard room were chuckling away. Should have told people he slipped a digit in my hoop when I was on my 30th press-up. But I'm not one to lie for personal benefit. So I didn't. Right, what was the other story I want to talk about? Oh, yeah, this one. So, as usual, just have a sip of tea. Getting a bit sore throat because I'm dehydrated after pissing up. You were getting groomed there. Possibly. So, as we talked about numerous times, again, all the commie rats do is lie. All they do is lie. You know this, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot trust a single word they say. Conservatives lie as well. All politicians lie. But the difference is conservative politicians lie, but conservative people try not to lie because it's sort of in your, it's part of your ideology, isn't it? It's like Jordan Peterson's a hero of the Conservatives. He's always saying, do not tell lies. Always tell the truth, or at least don't lie. There's a lot of God-fearing people in the Conservative movement who believe, telling lies is sinful and wrong and you shouldn't do it. Whereas part of the commie ideology is to lie. It's like Takia. They think as long as it is in the aim of pushing forward their glorious utopian vision for society, that it's fine to lie. And as I've told you, logically, I can understand it. I can understand it. It's what I said about the election, right? You almost can't blame them for constantly lying all the time and cheating in. You've got to watch what you say around it, because I've been banned like 3 times by the authoritarian, deviant, sex pest fucking degenerates that run this god-awful, stinking hellhole platform. But basically, it seems like they did a bit of shenanigans during the election, right? And you can understand why they would think it was moral to cheat, can you? Because if you're just, like I said, you've got to hold accountable the priests, the high priests of the woke religion, not the flock. Because I've always said the same about religious groups. I'm not religious. You can't really have a pop at the sheep, because the sheep are being misled. It's the people in the pulpits. It's the rabble rousers that you have to reserve for the source of your ire, right? And the sheep fully believe 100% that Trump and the people like him, Ted Cruz, DeSantis, all of them, that they are 100% full-blown Nazis and fascists. Like, the sheep really did believe some of that stuff. The ones in the pulpits didn't. AOC and the ones who should be accountable, the evil commie rats, they don't. They're just cynical. But the sheep really believed it. You're seeing these lunatics coming out with this, saying, "Oh yeah, I'm disabled, and if Trump wins, I fear for my safety," as if like they actually believed. Stick all the cabbages in the ovens. They actually thought that, right? Hello, Paz. Nice to see you in. There's no point in me recommending your channel to anyone in here, Paz, because I'm sure they are all tasteful, sensible individuals who are already there. But Rotten Politics, Paz, and everybody else. At this point, it's been years, hasn't it? I'm sure we're all in the same gang by now. They actually did believe that. Like, that's what they thought. They thought, well, Donald Trump definitely going to gas all the disabled people, and he definitely is a fascist and a Nazi. And that being the case, if you do believe that that's true, you can understand why they would cheat. And you almost can't blame them, can you? It's almost moral. Like, if you think the person who's coming in is going to gas and murder innocent people, then you can make a moral argument that it's acceptable to cheat. And this is why I'm saying we're in the position that we're in, because the extremists have so aggressively pathologized their followers, their sheep, that they believe them when they're telling them that Donald Trump's going to kill the disabled. Donald Trump thinks black people shouldn't be allowed to vote. Donald Trump's an anti-Semitic. I mean, he's literally everything, isn't he? Donald Trump is... They believe the very fine people hoax, which we know was a hoax. But they believe it. They believe that Donald Trump was like, oh yeah, Nazis, they're good guys. They're good guys. An American, a country that's so proud of winning the World War II against the Nazis that they never shut up talking about it. But these people are thick enough to believe that he actually is an out-Nazi. So you are going to cheat if you think you're up against an out-Nazi. You can understand why they do it. But the problem is, that is an explanation of why they lie, because conservative-minded people think lying is wrong and sinful and you shouldn't do it. And commies think it's all a means to the end, so therefore lying is totally acceptable and totally moral. So that is why, as Baldo says, it's constant, relentless propaganda from them. Because we have qualms about lying and they don't. They see it as being perfectly reasonable. Yeah, that's another good one, isn't it? How many times did they say he'll start World War III? And this is what I've told you lot. Trump, for all of his flaws, was a savant on foreign policy. I'm not having it said that he wasn't. Like, there is no good argument you can make that Trump wasn't a fucking genius on foreign policy. Yes, he had plenty of failings, but he totally surpassed all of our expectations on foreign policy. He somehow got on with that little poison dwarf with a fucking 1960s hairdo in North Korea. He somehow got the Chinese to play ball. Everything was calm with the Russians. They tried to goad him into war in Syria with Assad, and he managed to skirt the line by just dropping like 60 cruise missiles on them and saying, yeah, that'll do, and then backing away from it. The bloke was a fucking savant on foreign policy. If it wasn't for the cruise missiling, because I didn't agree with that, I thought that was bollocks. It seemed to be total bollocks. Why would Assad gas all of his own people when he knew that that was the one red line that he wasn't to cross? So he knew we were all right just letting him crack on and do whatever he wants. And then all of a sudden, just when the powers that be want to tick the points of Raytheon and Lockheed and Boeing up a few more points, just all of a sudden he gasses all of his own people when he knows for a fact that is the single easiest way to make sure that he gets removed from power. It does not make sense. It doesn't make sense. So you can slag him off all you want. Again, this is a good point. This is a good point. He was a disappointment in many ways. But on foreign policy, he was a fucking savant. There was no new wars. It was relatively peaceful with the Koreans, the Chinese, and the Russians. And now we're staring at the abyss. So you can slag him off all you want, but you can't slag him off for that, right? And these fucking maniacs, the warmongers, the propagandists, the liars, the fucking liars. I hate that as well. Can we just all stop using their words for lying? You lot do it as well. Misinformation, disinformation. No, that's bollocks. This is using their shit words over and over again until it becomes normalized. The fucking liars. I hate it. Oh, misinformation. They say misinformation, disinformation, and misspoke. Some fucking rat like Piers Morgan or some fucking politician will blatantly lie and then they go, oh, perhaps I misspoke. No, you are a fucking liar. Call it what it is. You're a liar. Alison Rose and all these BBC journalists, they're fucking liars. The biggest rat of them all. In fact, I'm going to show you this regarding this story because I made sure to tweet about it so I didn't forget the story. I shared a link to it. Where is it? Fucking this rat. And you know I don't like Constantine either. Got more taste than some of you fuckers because I know some of yous were all like, oh yeah, I'm going to send the trigonometry boys some money. They're just self-serving liberal wet fucking blankets as well. I've never liked these sneaky shits. Constantine and Francis both voted fucking Remain. They just saw which way the political winds were blowing and wisely jumped on the bandwagon. Those fucking wet liberals, they're not interested in sticking up for the working classes. They're fucking arseholes. But basically, just look at Paul Mason, this little rat bastard here.
It's a complete red herring.
A red herring. This is what we're saying about Farage's banking.
This is a complete red herring.
If your bank account was closed, probably wouldn't be a red herring for you.
It's a complete red herring. What's happening is that there are international rules on money laundering. And whether we have an inquiry into them or whether you have a bank account with a bank that you don't like, those rules won't change. Those rules are there to protect us and to protect shareholders of banks against people who end up money laundering. Now, politically exposed people, there's a lot of them. There's two around this table. There's a lot of them. Banks must assure themselves that their sources of fund and wealth are real. So we don't know what the situation is with Farage, but one of the things banks have to do is they have to take account of what the news flow is around that person. Now, rightly or wrongly, a Labour backbencher accused Nigel Farage of taking £500,000 from the Russian government. Whether that's, Farage denies it, whether it's true or not, the bank has to take account of it, and then just has to say, well, are we running a risk that we don't want to run? And that's really all that's going on.
That's all that's going on. So basically, all of that was a smooth sounding, possibly logical explanation, but it was all fucking theatre. The whole thing was made up by Paul Mason because he is a ratbag, fork-tongued, lying sack of shite, commie fucking devil. So the whole thing was total bollocks, and he knew it was total bollocks when he was saying it. I mean, the fucking, we know what happened. The NatWest CEO leaked it to a BBC journalist and said, yeah, they're just fucking with him because he's a conservative and he made Brexit happen and we don't like them fuckers. That's what happened. That whole spiel was bollocks because he is just a rat. Paul Mason is a slippery, slimy, commie fucking snake. And he slithered in and slithered out and spat out his lies and then slithered out. The bloke is a rat. Like, I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw fucking Diane Abbott while she's given a mentally ill fuckwit son a piggyback. That's how far I could throw fucking those two. That's how much I trust Paul Mason. What a snake, eh? Out of interest, let's see what Constantine said in response.
Probably the same thing with you.
I'm
probably
not
the
politically exposed person.
Well,
so how is that happening with me?
we don't know. I don't know your personal case.
So you just said it's probably happening with me, but you don't know.
But the bank, they're taking a principled decision about the risks
how
that they're running.
You have no idea how
I do know.
Let's just stop there as well, right? Because he said, you'll notice, they're taking a principled decision. And this is the crux of what I want to say about it, right? Leading on from, as I mentioned earlier, they are completely deranged and delusional because in a way that people that aren't in a cult, only people that are in a cult are completely immunized. Ooh, they love getting immunized. They're immunized against common sense and logic. Because when you're a normal person, even if you strongly disagree with someone, you can always change your mind. Because logic is like a battering ram. The truth shall set you free, right? It's like a battering ram. I've thought things in the past and I've strongly disagreed with people. And then something happens, true and factual, and it just batters through your defenses and you go, oh yeah, I've changed my mind on loads of things. Because the truth is, it has a power all of its own. And only when you're in a cult does the truth not mean anything to you. And this is what I was saying about how they can believe two completely opposing points at the same time. Peak cognitive dissonance for the communists. Because, I mean, the stuff with all the LGBTQ plus I2 spirit thing is insanity. Like, old-fashioned liberals like me were just live and let live, pro-gay marriage in the 90s before it was cool. I don't care what anybody does. And it's got nothing to do with me. And that is liberal. But now they say that is fascism because reasons, right? Reasons. And then they will say things like, if you're a gay man, that's just a normal thing that everyone can be gay. But then they'll say, if you're a trans man, it's like, oh yeah, but your brain can be in the wrong body. And it's like, they'll talk about hardware and software as if you can just be the wrong body or you've got the wrong brain. But when it suits them, you can't have the wrong brain in the wrong body. And to hear a bloke like Paul Mason sit there, in fact, I've talked for a while, so let's just replay that 10 seconds. To hear a bloke who calls himself very, very left-wing, socialist, I'm a left-wing socialist, to hear a bloke like that say these words.
Well,
so how is that happening with me?
We don't know. I don't know your personal case.
So you just said it's probably happening with me, but you don't know.
But the bank, they're taking a principled decision about the risks.
There you go. the banks are taking a principled decision. To hear a left-wing activist, a socialist commie activist, use the term, oh no, the banks are just making a principled decision, it fucking makes you sit there. You have to take your eyes out and polish them. Like, can you imagine old school lefties? Michael Foot, Peter Shaw, Tony Benn, saying things like, banks are just being principled. Jeremy Corbyn, like, because at least he's an old school lefty arsehole, I don't think he's quite as bad as the woke. Because he actually believes the shite that he talks. People like Paul Mason are just fucking crazy. How does a left-winger say, oh yeah, the banks are just being principled? Surely the only bloke who you would expect, if the world still made sense, to say something as fucking demonstrably ludicrous and insane and stupid as the banks are just being principled would be the fat monopoly bloke. Right? You would have, maybe he'd say it. Big fat monocle tash, top hat, bag of money. I could expect him to say, oh yeah, the banks are just being principled. But to get a fucking self-described socialist commie wokeist like Paul fucking Mason to say, oh, banks are just being principled is hilarious. It's hilarious. It is It's as hilarious as me giving my granddad a nosh and saying, oh, don't mind us, we're just two lesbians enjoying ourselves. It's only to someone like Paul Mason can they inhabit these places where they are constantly contradicting themselves 24/7 all the time, and they don't even twig. No part of the brain goes, how can you believe two mutually opposing things at the same time, constantly, all day, every day? They never once see the contradiction. So there we go. I mean, tomorrow he'll be talking about, oh, the fucking big, we've got to get rid of all the banks. We've got to get rid of all the big corporations. Yeah, man. Yeah, commie utopia. And then when it suits him, when they're picking on someone who he doesn't like politically, he'll go, oh yeah, but the banks and the big corporations are just being fucking honest and noble and decent. Think about it. How are the far left all warmongers now? They're all warmongers now. The wokists, you almost have to be impressed with the skill that they've shown in brainwashing these woke cunts, because they're all warmongers as well. So you've heard it from Paul Mason. The new left are pro-big bank, pro-big business. That's why they put fucking flags on everything. That's why the big banks, Barclays, you walk into Barclays and there's a big sign, LGBT, oh, you can find love in here. I don't want to fucking find love. I want to deposit 100 quid. I want to deposit 100 quid and get a new credit card. I'm not interested in giving the fucking bloke who works behind the counter a hand shandy. I don't go into Halifax to fucking pipe Howard. Remember him, that specky bald bloke, the black fella? I don't go into Halifax to get Howard to fucking hum the national anthem with my balls in his mouth. I just want my credit card replacing, right? And this is the shit we've got to deal with. The modern left are fucking crazy. You can disagree with the conservatives. I disagree with hardcore conservatives all the time. But at least they're consistent. You don't get Bible-thumping conservatives doing this shit, do you? It's incredible to me. You just don't. At least if Ted Cruz comes out and he's all pro-war, you expect that from him. But when you get the modern left who praise the big banks, praise the big corporations, praise the arms companies blowing up little kids, this is where we are in 2023. It is fucking clown world, as I keep saying. It is clown world. The world has gone fucking mad. And there's no better example of it than that, where you've got a commie saying, oh, big banks are just being honest. The big banks are just being noble and honourable and decent. Fucking, there's another one to do. See this one? Did you see this story about, anyway, I'm rambling. I'm going to go. I need to do some shit. Quick one. Just more of the same. This left-wing arsehole, Matty Ely, an LGBT community, they're all angry with him. because he jumped up on the stage and said, "Oh yeah, how dare you be horrible at the LGBT community?" And it says, "Oh, he sparked fury from the LGBT activists because they said it was performative activism, and they said, oh." I can't believe he launched into a tirade and kissed his bandmate in protest. And they're like, why is he doing that? It's his white savior complex. I'm like, it's more of the same where like they're just playing a political game with you. Because when it suits them, I mean, because you are replete with examples now. I'll give you about 50. But just to sum up, that the woke are insane and crazy and believe two mutually opposing things at the same time constantly. There's another one. It's like, they praise the big banks, they praise the big corporations, they're pro-war, they fucking love war, the war. They love a bit of war. Bomb some schools, that's tolerant and liberal. Yeah, cheers then. And then they've got this shit whereby if you come out in support of the LGBT community, they'll slag you off because they don't like him because he's a white bloke. So if you come out in support of them, but they don't like your politics or whatever, or what you look like, they hate you anyway. And if you don't come out and support them, they hate you anyway. So it's just part of this game. It's all a game to them. The pro-big bank, pro-big corporation, pro-warmongering, modern woke left. It's all a game to them. And this is more of the same. If you come out and say, I fucking love black music, mate, Snoop Doggy Dogg, oh, he's class him. Or I only ever listen to Snoop Doggy Dogg. They go, oh, yeah, thieving, lying, colonizer. Oh, you're stealing that. You're appropriating black music. You're a pretty thief. And if you got it, then I fucking hate Snoop Doggy Doggy shit. You go, oh yeah, you want to gas all the blacks. That's the world we're living in. It's a game to them. And they make the rules and you can't win. So if you like them, they hate you. And if you hate them, they hate you. There's no winning. If you're pro big bank, they hate you. If Nigel Farage comes out as pro big bank, they'll say, fuck the banks, burn the banks. If he says he hates them, they'll go, yeah, no, the banks are just being noble and decent and honourable. Doesn't matter what the issue is. Doesn't matter what the issue is. All they do is lie. And it doesn't matter if you try and jump in and stick your toe in and try and agree with them, they will twist it so you can't win. If you love women, you stick up for women. You're doing that because you hate women. If you say, okay, then fuck them, I'm not interested in feminism, they're all crazy. They go, oh, yeah, you hate women. There's no way to win. So like I keep saying to you lot, just have nothing to do with these people. Don't interact with them. Don't talk to them. Have a crack with your mates. Get a hobby. Don't become a protester. Mummy's off to a protest. It's fucking pointless. Just have the disdain and contempt for the woke cult that you should have and get on with your life and try and find it all humorous and get a hobby and hang out with your mates and fucking enjoy yourselves laughing at them because they are crazy. And the only way to win this game, whereby whichever choice you make, you're damned, the only way to win is to not play the game at all. Just not play. If you knew you were going to go to a football match in Argentina and all the refs and the lines and all were bent, the best thing to do is just not go to the tournament. Just stay home, watch it on the telly and laugh at the Americans and the French getting fucking cheated by the RG officials. The only thing to do is not play the game. All right? And that is my advice to you. Don't get involved. Don't try and counter-protest. Don't try and be involved in this shit. Just don't play the game. It's the only way to win. All right? And there we go. 50 minutes there. You can have that for now, you twats. Like it and share it if you can be asked. If you've got any money, buy me a pint, you tight bastards. I think it's been at least 6 weeks since I've had anything off you fucking cheap bastard. Especially you, Codhead. With all he's talking about his shares in fucking Raytheon and Lockheed. You got shares in Lockheed. We're bombing the shit out of half the world and you won't even buy the Bootneck a pint. That is shocking. Shocking behaviour. Anyway, yeah. So we should all be pro-war because the Codhead's got money in the arms company. So at least we can end on a high note. Someone is winning. Someone's winning today. All right, ladies and gents. Thanks for watching. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot I am on this Sunday. Oh, yeah, and I'm doing a chat with Paul tomorrow. So I'm doing a chat with Paul tomorrow. I'm doing a stream with Ragnar on Sunday. And, yeah, that's that. So check them out. Thanks for watching. Toodle pip. See you all very soon. Cheers. See you later. Have a good night.